Have you seen Rebel Moon yet? If you haven't, I have to ask the question, why? This is a really fun film. To put it into a frame of reference, those of you who are on my channel a lot know that my wife, Chris, doesn't usually like science fiction films. She gave this film a 9 out of 10 after watching it last night. And I would say it's probably like an 8 for me. There was a couple of moments where I felt like the dialogue got a little sloppy. And I could definitely, now that I know that the director's cut is coming and it's an R-rated version with a lot more content and everything else, I can see some what I would consider to be I'm going to just say this here, some sloppy editing. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the film. It's just it's not sloppy as in ugly. It's just I notice it, and the reason is because I work in video editing on a daily basis. I don't know if like because I don't think Chris noticed it at all. And it was really the only thing that took away from this film for me. Otherwise, it is a fun romp through Zack Snyder's new IP. I'm really excited about this. I've been on board since it was first announced. I love the idea of the RPG they're creating at the same time. I love the idea of doing two films that are like PG-13 and then having these two R-rated films come out later. They're the director's cuts of each one of these presenting a sort of, he even described it in an interview I read the other day as like an alternate dimension, sort of like an alternate timeline version of this show, of this film. And I really like the way it's being done. I was like, it's a fun experiment, if nothing else. So I'm kind of ride or die with Zack Snyder. I've never seen a film of his that I dislike. So there may be little things that I'll nitpick, but it's kind of like George Lucas. I like all of George Lucas's films. Yes, there are things I will nitpick about each one. Same thing with, I don't want to go on a director rant right now, but Steven Spielberg is another one who I pretty much love everything he does. Zack Snyder has a way of making films that I like as a moviegoer. I'm genuinely entertained every time I watch one of his films. Are there tropes here? Yes. Is it a Star Wars clone? No. And anybody who says that is literally just following the hype of bashing this film because one of the characters happens to have a couple of swords that if you are a complete I mean, you really got to reach to consider those lightsabers. And I've seen people trying to make that comparison, and it's just not true. First and foremost, they are bladed weapons, so they are actual swords. There's no energy beam at all, there's no snap hiss, they don't deflect blaster bolts, there's none of that. They're just, I mean, I don't know what you would call them, but they're metal blades that she can choose to turn on when she wants to, and they get the glowy effect around them, which appears to be some sort of a I would liken this to like if they have some sort of technology that allows them to create on the edge of the blade like a chain of energy that adds additional cutting force. It's kind of like that. There's no lightsaber anything happening here. So apart from the visuals, and her character, by the way, is like a background character to this whole thing. And so it just doesn't track for me when people try to make those comparisons. There are tropes here, though. Definitely some tropes. And like I said, when I go back to the sloppy editing, one of the areas that I notice things is like there's probably a dozen instances I noticed when there were conversations happening between team members, and it just felt like all of a sudden it cut away before they finished having their conversation, and I was like, I guarantee that's going to be an extended part when this comes out later on with the R-rated version, because they get the point across without it being overly descriptive. And that's where Zack Snyder can go off the deep end with his director's cuts. And I'm fine with that. I am all on board for the 3.5 hour version, the 4 hour version. Dude, I would love Ridley Scott to eventually release one of his 6 hour versions. I would totally watch that. Like, I like the filmmaker's vision. Sometimes studio cuts can be good, but other times it's like just let the director do what he's going to do. So, you know, there are times when, him in particular, he has almost no dialogue in this film, and yet he's by far a much more famous actor than her. And yet she has all the dialogue in the film, which is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. She's an amazing actress. This is an amazing character. It's a lot of fun. But I'm saying, I guarantee in the extended cut, the director's cut, he's going to have a lot more dialogue to explain his backstory and reasoning, because him as this like general who like turned against the motherland and everything. It was just like I need to know more about this guy. So very much looking forward to the director's cut. And Charlie Hunnam, um, I'm always gonna watch things that he's in. I like the way he does films. I've liked all his characters. So essentially, this is just a film. We've seen some of these elements in stories before where we have, an idyllic setting. She plays the mysterious person who showed up a couple years ago, and she's in hiding, and everyone knows she's in hiding from a crashed ship, and they're okay with that. She pitches in, and then spaceship arrives one day, and it turns out that it's the evil empire that she used to be a part of, and now they're here, and they are gonna do what they want with the village, and that forces her into action to defend, and then thus begins this fight between the townsfolk and the empire. And they can't survive on their own, so they have to seek out the help of the rebellion, who is going up against the empire. This is not again, Star Wars similarities, but we've also seen. I would more liken this to Warhammer 40K than I would Star Wars. Like, just the look and feel of everything is very much Warhammer, especially in the way the Imperium dresses and their ships and everything else. I would definitely draw a Warhammer reference from this, not a Star Wars reference. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. But those tropes are there. Evil empire, rebellion fighting against the empire. We've seen that in a million books and a million films. It's not a bad trope when done properly. And I enjoyed this here. It was done properly. So she then goes out to recruit a team of soldiers and an ex-general and people who can help defend this village against the evil empire. And along the way, meet the rebellion and get involved in that. And that's the short version. There's some betrayal that happens. I don't want to spoil everything for you here, but yes, I do. What am I talking about? Charlie Hunnam plays a great bad guy in this version. I haven't seen him play a bad guy for a while. I loved his character in Children of Men. It was like before he got famous, but he had a really nasty character. He didn't have a lot of lines in that film, but it was still a great role. But anyway, he's a great actor, and he was here playing a ship captain, a smuggler captain who they join up with, and he turns out to be, a bad dude who tries to sell him out, because he needs to make a buck as a bounty hunter. And it's, there are some moments when I said, you know what, this is not, I've definitely seen this before, so it's not fresh, it's not new. And again, that also contributes to me only giving it like an 8 out of 10 as opposed to a 10 out of 10. So, other than that, I love the movie. The special effects were great. The fight scenes were great. Some people have issue with Zack's use of slow-mo. I don't. I like it used the way he does it creatively. It makes me know that I'm watching a Zack Snyder film. It's like when you watch, why am I blanking his name? He does the, J.J. Abrams does the lens flare. I like J.J. Abrams films. I've loved almost all of his films. Pretty much. I've liked his television shows, like going back to Alias. Like, I freaking love that show. So, like, every filmmaker has their own little thing, And so, Zack Snyder's thing is he uses slow motion more than other directors do. Is it good? Is it bad? It depends on you as a viewer. Some people like that artistic flair. I'm one of those who do. So, for me, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Cris gave it a 9 out of 10. She really, really liked this movie. And she's like, when it ended, she's like, there's a second part, right? And I was like, yeah, there's totally a second part. She's like, okay, good, because that's not a good ending. And I was like, I know, it's set up to get you primed and ready for the next one. So I enjoyed it. It's just another satisfying popcorn film from Zack Snyder. It's not anything deep or scientific or philosophical or religious or anything like that. It doesn't need to be. It's just a fun romp through space with some really cool VFX and a cast of characters who are really easy to know and understand. And some of it's comic booky and some of it's tropey. And who gives a shit? It's a movie. It's meant to be fun. Have fun. Enjoy this film, everybody. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'll see you next time. Stay safe. Happy viewing.